And welcome to The Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. So often we engage in activities on a day-to-day basis where we forget our why. We lose sense of our real core reason for why we're doing something. It just becomes habit, it becomes automatic behavior, default. And so when we come on here on The Knowing Show every single day, I wanted to just remind us of why we are on here. The Knowing Show is predicated on my mission, the thing that I feel really called to with my life, which is to bring emotional health and emotional healing to ideally 1,000 leaders, and at a transformational level that then they go into their families, into their businesses, into their communities, and there's transformation as a result, so that by proxy, not just 1,000 people really are impacted, but hundreds of thousands, potentially even millions of people are impacted as a result. And so that really is my mission, and my life has been radically transformed as a result of the work that we talk about here on the show. I feel like I was asleep for the majority of my life until I really did look in the mirror, and I looked and saw who I was, and I looked and saw that I had been living as a non-person for so much of my life. And so that's the why. That's the why we get on here, and we do readings. We talk to different people. We have conversations. We talk here in the chat on YouTube specifically. We dive deep, and we really seek to know. We seek to know ourselves. We seek to know others. We seek to know God. We seek to know the truth, because so much of the truth has been distorted by our experiences in the past. And so we no longer can see the reality of what's going on around us, because it's like we're looking through a veil. We're looking through what's the concept? We're looking through a glass dimly. And so the goal for our joining every single day is to know. It's to do the work, to better understand, to see the truth of the reality of what is right in front of me, right here, right now, to be able to live fully right here, right now, free from the past, free from fear, and to be able to love well, and as a result of that, create and walk in freedom. So freedom and creation are on the other side of knowing. And for those reasons, we get on here every single day. In the morning, we review a daily lesson from A Course in Miracles. This is, frankly, I started doing this simply because I wanted to grow and I wanted to read this. And so I thought I would incorporate it and bring it to y'all. And it's sparked amazing conversations over the last 154 days. So we're doing this every single morning through the end of the year. Who knows if we'll keep it up in 2027, but it's been encouraging. And then in the afternoons on the weekdays, sometimes we'll have a guest come on. Sometimes we'll actually talk very specifically business conversations. Yesterday, we talked all about the benefits of events and developing business relationships. And so we have kind of two dual tracks on the Knowing Show. So I am grateful you're here. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our lesson in A Course in Miracles. Before I do, Brian, good morning. American Redneck, I'm so glad to see you. Exec, good morning from Scotland. I'm so happy you're here. Bradley, oh, it's good to see you. It's been so long. Y'all, I'm excited. It's going to be a good day, and it's going to be a good lesson that we're going to dive into. So I'm looking forward to it. Just a quick review of the few preceding lessons. Lesson 151, all things are echoes of the voice of God. Lesson 152, the power of decision is my own. Lesson 153, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And today's lesson, 154, I am among the ministers of God. Let us today be neither arrogant nor falsely humble. We have gone beyond such foolishness. We cannot judge ourselves, nor need we do so. These are but attempts to hold off decision and to delay commitment to our function. It is not our part to judge our worth, nor can we know what role is best for us. What we can do within a larger plan, we cannot see in its entirety. Our part is cast in heaven, not in hell. And what we think is weakness can be strength. What we believe to be our strength is often arrogance. Whatever your appointed role may be, it was selected by the voice of God. whose function is to speak for you as well. Seeing your strengths exactly as they are and equally aware of where they can be best applied for what, to whom, and when, he chooses and accepts your part for you. He does not work without your own consent, but he is not deceived in what you are and listens only to his voice in you. It is through his ability to hear one voice, which is his own, that you become aware at last there is one voice in you. And that one voice appoints your function and relays it to you, giving you the strength to understand it, do what it entails, and to succeed in everything you do that is related to it. God has joined his Son in this, and thus his Son becomes his messenger of unity with him. It is this joining through the voice of God, of Father and of Son, that sets apart salvation from the world. It is this voice which speaks of laws the world does not obey, which promises salvation from all sin, with guilt abolished in the mind that God created sinless. Now this mind becomes aware again of who created it and of his lasting union with itself. So is itself the one reality in which its will and that of God are joined. A messenger is not the one who writes the message he delivers, nor does he question the right of him who does, nor does he have chosen those who will receive the message that he brings. It is enough that he accept it, give it to the ones for whom it is intended, and fulfill his role in its delivery. If he determines that what message should be and what their purpose is, or where they should be carried, he is failing to perform his proper role as bringer of the word. There is one major difference in the role of heaven's messengers, which sets them apart from those in the world appointed. The messages that they deliver are intended first for them. And it is only as they accept them for themselves that they become able to bring them further and to give them everywhere that they were meant to be. Like earthly messengers, they did not write the message they bear, but they become their first receivers in the truest sense, receiving to prepare themselves to give. An earthly messenger fulfills his role by giving away all messages he's received. The messengers of God perform their part by their acceptance of his message as for themselves and show that they understand the messages by giving them away. They choose no roles that are not given them by his authority, and so they gain by every message that they give. Would you receive the messages of God? For thus do you become his messenger. You are appointed now, and yet you wait to give the messages you have received, and so you do not understand that they are yours and do not recognize them. No one can receive and understand he has received until he gives. For in the giving is his own acceptance of what he received. You who are now the messenger of God receive his messages, for that is part of your appointed role. God has not failed to offer what you need, nor has it been left unaccepted. Yet another part of your appointed task is yet to be accomplished. He who has received for you the messages of God would have them be received by you as well. For thus do you identify with him and claim your own. It is this joining that we undertake to recognize today. We do not seek to keep our minds apart from him who speaks for us, for it is but our voice we hear as we attend him. He alone can speak to us and for us, joining in one voice the getting and the receiving, and the getting and the giving of God's word, the giving and the receiving of his will. We practice giving him what he would have, that we may recognize his gifts to us. He needs our voice that he may speak through us. He needs our hands to hold his messages and carry them to those whom he appoints. He needs our feet to bring us where he wills, that those who wait in misery may be at last delivered. And he needs our will united with his, that we may be the true receivers of gifts he gives. Let us but learn this lesson today. We do not recognize what we receive until we give it. You have heard this said 100 ways, 100 times, and yet belief is lacking still. But this is sure. Until belief is given it, you will receive 1,000 miracles, then receive 1,000 more. but will not know that God himself has left no gift beyond what you already have, nor has denied the tiniest of blessings to his own Son. What can this mean to you until you have identified with him and with his own? Our lesson for today is stated thus: I am among the ministers of God, and I am grateful that I have the means by which to recognize that I am free. The world recedes as we light up our own minds and we realize these holy words are true. They are the message sent to us today from our Creator. Now we demonstrate how they have changed our minds about ourselves and what our function is. For as we prove that we accept no will, we do not share, our many gifts from our Creator will spring to our sight and leap into our hands, and we will recognize what we have received. I want to jump back to kind of the middle of this section or of this lesson. There is one major difference in the role of heaven's messengers, which sets them off from those the world appoints. The messages that are delivered are intended first for them, and it is only as they accept them for themselves that they become able to bring them further, to give them everywhere that they were meant to be. Like earthly messengers, they did not write the messages they bear, but they become the first receivers in the truest sense, receiving to prepare themselves to give. An earthly messenger fulfills his role by giving away all his messages. The messengers of God perform their role by their acceptance of his message for themselves and and show that they understand the message by giving them away. So there's kind of a two-prong approach here in terms of what does it really mean for us to be messengers of God. And it's that we first receive it for ourselves, and that and that's kind of the core differentiator. So often if you think of like a message courier, it's purely transactional. It's taking it from point A to point B. But this is where kind of the messenger that we are called to be on behalf of God is we take it and we absorb it and we allow it to change us. And it is then through our living and embodying, we then give it away. If we were to just take it from A to B, does it show that we even know it? Yesterday, we talked about this example of a man who is digging in a field and he finds this hidden treasure. And then he proceeds to go and sell everything he has to buy the field that the treasure's in. So if he had just found the treasure and been like, oh, wow, let me go tell people about it, but he didn't take any real action, did he really believe that the treasure was there? Did he really allow for it to come in and like transform his mind and allow for the excitement to permeate his soul? Once we really know something, this is why it's a knowing show, because the word knowing isn't just a sedentary knowledge in your head. It's the knowing that transforms and impacts every single one of our human intelligences: the intellect, 100%, the emotions, the spirit, and the body. So it's incorporating every single part of us that allows for us to then not just have the head knowledge, but have the soul knowledge, spirit, physical knowledge that then impacts and changes. We cannot help but be changed, and it changes the way that we live. And so naturally, the overflow is then the giving of that which we have received. We can't help but keep it in. There's another concept that says, you shall know a tree by its fruit. So really, it's out of the overflow of all of the contents within us that people will then receive the message we bring. But the message first must be received, must be known, and then fully adapted and then lived out. And then from that place of overflow, we effectively become the messengers of God. And so one of the questions is, okay, well, what is currently flowing out of me? What currently is the fruit in my life? And I think that this might even just be an interesting audit, to close our eyes and be like, okay, what over the last 5 days, what has been coming out of me? What has been the fruit of my life? What has been the fruit of my words, my behavior, my mind? What have been the external reflections of who I am within me? And, last night I had a moment where I really needed to take 60 seconds and go inward and then apologize to my darling. I was quick to get upset, and there was something there that I hadn't worked through a couple weeks before. And so he said something, and I just I immediately, and it's funny, we don't even have to get super angry in order for us to have a sign of like, oh, I need to tend to that. We talked about being defensive yesterday, and we've talked about being defensive before. And defensiveness effectively is a sign that there's a weakness. If we feel like we have to defend against somebody else, it actually is really revealing that there feels like there's a weakness inside. I have felt nervous around certain people because I know that my ability to contend with them is not high. Therefore, I feel nervous of them because I know that I'm not very strong in their presence. So if I start getting defensive, it means it's revealing a vulnerability in me. It also can reveal a value. It also can reveal something that needs to be healed. So our defensiveness is a sign, oh, pause, go inward. I have this kind of like three-step practice. And I started this honestly when I first started my journey of coming to know myself, because I just had no idea what was going on inside of me. So I had these 3 steps that I would do. I would stop, I would slow all the way down. So I would slow down, I would lean into that feeling. So whatever that emotion was that was coming up inside of me, the discomfort, the anger, the pain, the insert blank, depression, I would lean into that and I would ask why. That was the 3rd step. So 1, slow down, 2, lean in, 3, ask why. And it would look like the way that would manifest is that I would be boarding a plane and I would feel something strange and I would sit down in my seat and journal on it. And I'm like, why did I just act that way? Why did I just feel that way? Where did that come from? And I was just like Sherlock Holmes with my little magnifying glass, like tracing the emotion down to the root story of why is that there? And so last night when I starting to get defensive, I stopped. I was driving and I asked why. I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why is this emotion here? So it's taking the emotion almost from like taking it, not making it personal and just examining it. Why is this here? What does this have to tell me? And in that process of examining the emotion, we come to know the stories that our emotions hold. We come to know the data. Just like how I love data so much when I'm doing business, man, it brings clarity. It gives attribution. So it's not just, oh, that campaign worked. It's okay, well, why did it work? Why did we just get so many more leads from this campaign versus this one when we spent the same amount of money or even less over here? Why is this money invested in this area having such a greater return? So the same goes. Every single investment we make emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically is going to have a return. It's going to yield. And so do I understand the attribution of how that experience from years and years and years ago is actually yielding a return that I actually don't like? That concept of investing and then yielding return goes both ways. I love the return and it's a positive one versus a negative one. Sometimes we actually do make bad investments in a relationship, in an expenditure of our time, in our thoughts. Where and how are we investing our time, energy, attention into areas that are yielding bad investments? And so I've realized that one of the things that I was kind of yielding investments in was just this subtle, very subtle. I knew I was thinking this way, but I didn't address it. So a couple weeks ago, I just started feeling like I don't feel like I'm in much control of my life. Like there's just been a lot of things happening. And it's that you all know, for those of you who are friends of the Knowing Show, the book Letting Go by David Hawkins has been such an incredible book for me this year. And I've really been working to incorporate it. And still, it's an ongoing letting go in terms of just like, I'm not in control of my life. And it's been in very specific ways. But that feeling of not being in control, I actually hadn't really sat with it over the last couple of weeks. And so last night, very small, something happened that triggered that feeling that was already inside me. We cannot be triggered by something unless it's already there. And so because I had been subtly, mentally investing in that thought process of me not being in control, that came up and it yielded the result of defensiveness. And it yielded the result of I have a therapist who I just love. His name is Diego. So if anyone wants a good therapist, let me know. I'll pass him along. He has this phrase called getting flooded. And it's basically when like, I think of it literally like a machine where, it's at stasis and it's at a baseline. And then all of a sudden it gets filled up so quickly. And it's kind of like on an emotional level where you're fine, you're going about your day, something happens, it triggers something that's inside of you. And then something that's inside of you already bubbles forth and it floods you. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I need to take a step back because now I can't really think clearly because I am emotionally flooded. And so in those moments when we get emotionally flooded, that is technically it's a yielding on the return. We have invested into a thought, into an emotion within us that has not produced peace and yielded peace. And then it ends up bubbling forth and flooding us in a really significant way. And so every single time when we have these moments where it's like, oh, look at me living out of alignment, it's just a beautiful, beautiful, it's like holding out its hand. It's like a beautiful offer to go inward and explore and come to know what's going on here. Why do I have this? And then we make a decision. Last night I was talking to my darling on the phone and he's like, I feel like you did a 180. And I was like, well, no, well, first, I can't tell him he didn't feel that way. But in my perspective, I was like, I want you to understand what I was going through mentally because we were on the phone. And I expressed that he knew I was defensive. And on the phone, I realized this is a moment where I feel emotionally flooded and I know that he didn't do anything wrong. I know that. And so I can either continue down this path of defensiveness, looking for supporting evidence for why I feel upset, or I can, to that book, letting go, or I can actually change. We get to choose how we're feeling. So the thought that we think, the feeling that's inside of us, we don't need to acquiesce. That is not automatically the thing that I have to adhere to. But I do get to choose. Am I going to continue to put attention and energy into this thought or emotion? Or am I going to be the one in the driver's seat where my true self, comes in and says, you know what, I see that emotion and, I'm going to tend to you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do that 3-step process, slowing down, leaning and asking why. Once I understand why it's there, I'm going to be tender towards that emotion or that thought, but it doesn't get the final say. And so last night I was on the phone and I just realized, I was like, okay, I got to be humble here. I got defensive, and that doesn't mean that emotion is bad, but what it does mean is that I wasn't very fair to him. And so I apologized. And I told him, I was like, for me, it wasn't necessarily a 180. It was more so in that moment I had a choice. Am I going to adjust my emotional state? Am I going to adjust my behavior and apologize and humble myself? Because here's the thing, y'all. If we have not done the work to know that our environment today is different than that of the past, where we perhaps were emotionally unsafe. I was in a relationship in the past that was really damaging. And last night, that conversation that happened with my darling today could not have happened back then. And so am I going to maintain my defensiveness? Am I going to seek for evidence for why I'm upset? Or can I allow for compassion towards the emotion, tending to it, and letting go of it, and regain unity with my darling? And so that's the decision that we each have to make. Am I going to try to reinforce and continue investing into this emotion? Because it really is every single excuse, every single time we're trying to explain, that explanation is important to know, but not to defend. And there's a very, very different powering source. We talk about this on the show, that the same behavior can be powered by 2 different beliefs, but the behavior might look the same. So me sharing why I'm feeling defensive could be powered by love and seeking to be compassionate and understand and restore unity with my darling, or it could be powered by fear. See, this is why I'm upset. This is what was wrong. This is why you need to apologize or whatnot. And so I could show up in a way where I'm like, I know I'm defensive. I know I'm flooded. would you help me? I'm sorry. Like, I want to regain unity. Or it could be coming from a place of, I'm unwilling to reconcile because I need to defend myself, and I need to reinforce those emotions. Just jumping here in the chat. Good morning, everyone. I love this. Okay, Bradley, I've been watching, just haven't been live. Oh, well, I'm glad you're here. It's been a while. Goose Hunter, good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Fabian, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Brian says, learn to appreciate the things you have before time forces you appreciate the things you once had. Rick Campanella, good morning. I'm not sure I understand your question. Does it matter which verses were before the cross or after? I don't know if I understand, but feel free to ask in a different way, because I want to make sure that I actually am getting to the right thing. Is God says, be salted the earth. You can't spread his word being stuck in a jar with the rest of the salt you have to shake it and spread it. Our greatest blessing is salvation and grace. Oh, Bradley, I love that. If we're to be the salt of the earth, it means we actually need to go out and get out of that jar. I love it. We are surrounded by a mass of messages from our Creator. We just have to learn to recognize them. We can find them among the people, animals, or nature around us. Goose Hunter, what a beautiful perspective. Truly, y'all, how much are we really picking our head up and looking? It's so funny. Even as I was reading this, I just see my phone out of the corner of my eye. And as I'm engaging with you guys, I just see my phone resting right here. And I'm like, I don't need my phone. Why is this sitting here? And I want to just cultivate a practice of not having my phone so easily accessible, because the reality is that the second I have a spare moment, I'm going to pick this thing up and distract myself with it. And so I'm so grateful you say that, Goose Hunter. We are surrounded by a mass of messages from our Creator. We just have to learn to recognize them. We can find them among people, animals, or nature around us. Yo, what a beautiful intention for today of let's go find the messages from our Creator and live with our eyes wide open and ears listening, looking for that which is beautiful and brings a blessing. Joseph Cliff, I'm so grateful. I found this provoking and potentially helpful. I'm glad. The Royal Sage, good morning. No, I am not. Fabian, I need a prayer. I want to walk with Jesus. I want to follow Jesus. Fabian, I would love to pray with you. Yeah, I would love to pray with you. Let me go ahead and get through the last few of these chats, and then let's pray before we jump off today. I would love to do that. Brian, Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth. I love that. Ashok, I haven't read the Gideon Bible app, but I will look into that. Christine, do you think our Creator influences our lives all the time, or only when we need hidden supernatural intelligence with a message from him? And that's such an interesting question. And I think it depends on terms. When you say influences our lives, I think that depends on what you mean by influence. Is it, what does that mean to you, to influence? I think that he is an ever-present help, and it's not even just he's always there. This is where it gets really, really dynamic when you consider God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. My gosh, it's too amazing for me to comprehend. And as I think through it, I think of the Spirit of God I have access to that all the time. It's in me. And if the biblical story goes, Jesus, who was here on earth, and Christ, and everybody loved him, and some people really hated him, but he was healing people and loving so well and bringing hope and bringing so much care to hurting, broken souls. And so he says to his disciples, it's better that I leave. And it's like, well, why in the heck is it better for Jesus to leave? Like, he was wonderful. And he says, effectively, more and better things you will do with the Spirit of God, a spirit of me. Like we get the Spirit of Christ in us. And so I think that we actually get to tap into that power and that spirit at any time, all the time. And so much of what she's talking about here in a lesson from A Course in Miracles is how to just be oriented towards the presence of God so that when we walk into a room, the presence of God is coming with us. So that when we go to our barista or we go to our gas attendant, we are bringing a presence that is unlike anything that they've ever experienced. And it's no longer God out there. I'm no longer praying to an entity in the sky, but rather I am abiding with Christ in me. And the Spirit of God is the one acting and flowing through me. And man, what an incredible thing that we don't have to do life alone. We don't have to be, even if I am physically alone, I am not lonely because I always have hope. I always have that presence in me. And so as we think through, how much does God influence our day to day? I don't believe that he makes us do something, but I do believe that, that we have access at all times. Just scrolling down, American Redneck, you are the messenger I listen to. Wow. What a high calling. Thank you. XX, no phone equals intentional listening. I love that. Fabian, I do. Brian says happiness is not determined by what's happening around you, but rather what's happening inside you. Most people depend on others to gain happiness, but the truth is it always comes from within. Oh, I love that, Brian. Man, we have so much. We have so much power, Man, there's actually a verse that says God gave us he gave us, I'm going to look this up because this is such a beautiful, powerful verse. Okay, here it is. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. So the spirit that is effectively God offering to all of us is a spirit of power and love and a sound mind. So when we're in a state of confusion, that usually is a sign, I'm not in alignment. I don't have the power of God in me right now. Like I'm not calling on it and activating it. And so when we're existing in a state of confusion, that's usually a really, really good indicator that the spirit of fear perhaps is there and has a louder voice. Bradley, oh, thank you so much. I just feel so grateful for your note here, Bradley. Thank you. Kid Up, good morning. AI Auto Vids, good morning. Most people hate God. I think that there's a lot of spiritual pain and a lot of hurt. I really, really, really do. I think that this is why it's so important for us to activate that power and love and a sound mind, because the world needs it and we need it, Man, y'all, this is what she was talking about this morning, is that, man, am I receiving the message first from God, allowing it to transform me and then flow out from me? So that which we give, we receive. That which we receive, we give. And so how much is what we're doing and the way that we're living a reflection of what's within us? And is it well? Is it healthy? Is it a reflection of who we want to be, who we were created to be, our own potential? And this is where, XX says no phone equals intentional listening. Do we even know for ourselves all that we can be in our own potential? Because a lot of times, if we're looking outward for other people to tell us, hey, this is who you can be. And as children, our parents really believed in us, hopefully. And so now it's, okay, well, do I actually believe and do I see myself well enough to call myself forth? I find it so valuable to have friends who do that for us. But at the end of the day, we are in a competition against our own self. And so do we hold ourselves to a standard? Do we have a big enough dream to then act and live accordingly? Just scrolling down through the chat. Bart, good morning. Michael, thank you guys for joining. Fabian, It's interesting. You're saying, you want to receive Jesus. And I just want to encourage you, my friend, that if you, I think if you love him, you have received him. If you love God, that is just the most beautiful sign that your heart is in the right place. And if you're wanting to be oriented towards God and you want to be oriented towards his voice and to being a messenger, that's what we were talking about today. I am a messenger from God. Are we taking the time to first listen, to receive, to absorb, and then have that be the thing that flows out from us? Y'all, every single one of us has direct access to God and knows something that the rest of the world needs if we're listening. And so, are you coming forward with your shoulders rolled back and entering into rooms knowing that you are a gift and you are a blessing and you are it's like the ambassador for God. Like ambassadors from different states and countries will go and represent their country. And so we are an ambassador for God, representing something that isn't even of this physical world, but it's something internal. Love is not something to be grasped, but it is something to be experienced. Let's go ahead and we don't normally do this on the show, but I would love to pray with you guys. It feels almost like we're in a battle in some ways, where there's so much competition vying for our attention and so much trying to steal our joy. There's depression all around us. We've never seen such high depression rates, so much suicide. We are living in a time and an age where it is unprecedented, the amount of brokenness, but also access to an alternative way of living, to hope. We have access to hope. Just this past week, or I guess last week, my uncle died a week ago today. My second uncle in 6 weeks died a week ago today. And I was with, my cousins and my aunt this weekend. And as I was watching them, they were such a beautiful example of how to grieve with hope, how to feel so sorry for the earthly loss, but knowing that this physical world is not the end of the story. And so I do want to just pray for every single one of us here, for me, and may this prayer be one that gives us, we talk about the Spirit of God offers power and love and a sound mind. We have power. And so we need never feel lost or lonely or depressed ever again. We have power. We have access to power. We have access to love at all times and access to a sound mind. Because so often, again, the confusion that comes in, the cognitive dissonance, the questioning, the feeling cloudy and foggy and flooded, that is all a sign that, oh man, I'm not accessing the power of God. And so I'm going to go ahead and say a prayer for all of us. God, I pray for love. God, I pray that we would walk in and access the power of your love, that your power, love, and a sound mind. We do not ever need to walk in fear again. God, I pray specifically for Fabian, my friend Fabian, God, who loves you. And I know he is the apple of your eye. God, I thank you that right now we can be connected. Even if we're worlds apart physically, we are spiritually together. And so, God, I just thank you for Fabian, God, for his family, God, for where he lives, for the generations that have come before him. God, I thank you that no part of his life is an accident, that no part of his life was a mistake. God, that he was and is intentionally created and made and formed and fashioned for a purpose that is so much greater than one that he probably could even imagine. God, I pray that we would learn to imagine again, God, that we would learn to dream again, God, that we would see ourselves through your eyes that is beautiful and full of love. God, that we would see ourselves as these beautiful, beautiful sons and daughters. God, that we would allow for ourselves to be made in your likeness and be changed in your likeness. God, I just was thinking of this concept of we are your workmanship. We are made in your image, and we are willing to be fashioned and molded after you, after your heart. And God, even here in this moment, I personally confess that I just let go. I let go of the pain. I let go of my old identity that is attached to that pain. God, I thank you that that's not the end of the story, that so often the pain and suffering that we go through is just a step. It is actually perhaps even the catalyst to go deeper, to know you deeper, to love better. God, I thank you for redemption, that which was intended for evil, you can make for good. And so, God, I thank you that you're so big. You're big enough to do that. You're big enough to take pain and bring beauty from ashes. And so, God, I speak now on behalf of those who are willing. God, we receive your power today. We receive your spirit that is power, love, and a sound mind. And we bring ourselves into submission to that spirit to operate through us, to love well. And we recognize that we've got power in and of ourselves. God, may we walk in the fullness of who you created us to be today. And we surrender and we love you. Amen. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a wonderful day. Jack, good to see you. Preston, I just saw your note. I gave up faith with all heart. I think that there's so much that it's almost like a reconciliation, there's a reconciliation after experiencing so much pain from church and God even, I realized when my brother-in-law was killed, I realized that I had fundamentally lived with a wrong understanding of God for 20 years, and it was my misunderstanding of him. But man, it was really wild to go and get to know God for who he is, not who everyone else said him to be, but allowing God to be our teacher and allowing God to effectively introduce himself to us. And in that process is healing. But am I going to allow God to be my teacher, to teach me who he is? Or am I going to hold on tightly to the old pain and old narratives and be tethered to that, to the past forever, rather than to what Brian says here, letting go is a hard lesson to learn. That is probably the hardest one of my life, is letting go and allowing for the old data to be updated, the old data that our intellect, emotions, spirit, physical self carries and remembers and knows. I paused. To let go of the old data that our intellect, emotion, everything that our mind, body, soul carries. Am I going to allow for that information to get updated based on the truth? Or is that going to be that old experience that when I was however old, is that going to be the thing that is going to carry me forward for the rest of my life? Or am I going to allow for updates to the system? We talked about data earlier. I love data and I love attribution, but sometimes we've got our sources broken. Sometimes we've been investing a lot in certain belief systems or certain systems that are outdated. They're no longer relevant. People who are not adjusting with the time and spending their money on digital platforms and tools, and they're only doing traditional marketing. I was talking with the dentist office yesterday about this very thing, and they're willing to try paying for digital marketing because they know that they live in a digital world now, 100%. And so sometimes those old systems are still right and true. Sometimes you should do traditional marketing, but a lot of times those old antiquated ways of beliefs and the data that we experienced when we were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old is no longer the same that would allow for us to live full and vibrant here today in the past or in the present. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining. I will see you. Actually, I decided I'm going to do trivia once a month. That's my decision, is that the first Wednesday of every month will be our trivia day. And so we're going to be playing trivia today at 3 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And I'm excited to play with you guys. I have to go figure out what our trivia is going to be. But I'm excited to hang out. Y'all, there's an aspect of, we do the work here in the morning. And in the evening, once a month, we're going to start just playing games and just being together, because that's part of living is joy and all the fun and play that can come with that. And frankly, I think we need a lot more of that. So I'll be back on this afternoon, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and then again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. So I'll go ahead and get those shows scheduled. Excited to see you. Come hang out with us later today. Jack, Preston, Brian, Bart, good to see you. Kidda, I'm so glad you joined us today. Bradley, so happy you're here. Mark Bangtop, hello. Truth Bearer, good morning. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. Goose Hunter, I love y'all. Sammy, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Sammy, I'm so glad you're here, my friend. If you want to go back and kind of listen to some of the things from earlier today, we had a prayer at the end that I hope is encouraging for you. Sammy is, for those of you who are new, Sammy is a friend of the show. He joined a couple months ago, and it was actually the anniversary of his accident from 2 years prior that just, man, broke his neck, and he's been diagnosed with being a C2 quadriplegic. So Sammy, we love you, and I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you. Adam, absolutely. I will pray for that right when I get off here. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. Remember, we are messengers. We are ambassadors and of God, of God's presence, and it is up to us to bear it well. So